Hey, what's up, pups? Welcome to another episode of the Power Up Podcast. It's a show that talks about pop culture and the umbrella that it covers in terms of like video games, anime, manga. Our goal is to keep our minds sharp, up to date of what's happening in pop culture, with hopefully the goal of keeping that nostalgic flame vibrant and alive because I've been feeling that for the past couple of years, it's slowly been dying. However, the weeds are being pulled out and all the garbage is kind of getting uprooted and burnt. And to remind people that we can still be entertained for entertainment's sake. Now, a lot of that means we may have to go back to the past in order for that to happen. But that was why the past is so amazing, because it felt like you could do whatever you wanted to do. The world was your oyster. You could reach out and enjoy things and be entertained for entertainment's sake. With us tonight is a guest that I saw on a previous show that I had with Panda Sub 2000's Phoenix. And I saw Mr. Matthews here, Rob, on that show. And Phoenix said, hey, you should reach out to this guy and talk to him because he's pretty sweet. And I watched some of your gameplay when you were doing that. And I was like, heck yeah, pop culture, retro video games, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I am there.
All of my favorite things you just mentioned right there. So
you know it, man. Well, yeah. Rob, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you for having me on. This is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. We were running into time zone setup here.
Time zone hilarity. It was like something out of a sitcom.
Yeah, it's always hilarious, but whatever. It is what it is. I'm just glad that we were able to work it out, and I am very interested in getting to know you. Whenever I have a new guest on the show, I always dedicate the whole show into learning about that guest, getting to know them, and just learn about what they enjoy in the realm of pop culture. And like I said, it can be like video games, movies, wherever the conversation takes us. I am all about just to see where that flow goes. And of course, they can always share as much or as little as they want. And of course, I have some questions lined up, but we're pretty much just free, Bruce Lee go with water sort of stuff.
Right on.
But Rob, would you let's kick it off by like sharing a little bit about yourself, like where you come from, if you want to share that, or your background a little bit, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. I grew up in California, and then through a series of weird family circumstances, we moved to Texas, actually. So I lived in Austin for about 7 years, and then I came back here to California. So now I'm living in California.
Oh, wow. Is California kind of like a big, like, are you kind of like in, like, I'm terrible with location, like kind of like the outskirts of California, or like?
I'm like right in the dead center of California. So I'm in like the Sacramento area. So I'm not well outside of the weird, crazy areas like San Francisco and San Diego, LA, in the northern part. I guess I'm a Northern Californian is.
Okay. Yeah. And of course, I was obviously like, trying not to word it to where you dox yourself or anything like that.
Well, my address, if you want to know, is.
Oh, yeah. Like, I think I might have. I didn't give my full address one time, but I like narrowed it down a little bit more on like one of my past shows. And I was like, well, I'm in Texas. So, what,
Texas it's like
is a Second Amendment state, so I'm not too worried about weirdos.
Right. If you want to come to my house, that's your choice.
Yeah,
you might not like what I got here, but
yeah, I do not consent. But if you want to be retarded enough, go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I also don't like to give out like a whole lot of personal information, but at the same time, I'm also realistic enough to know that if someone wants to know where I live, they're gonna find out. I mean,
that's kind of the scary thing too, is like nowadays, like you have more than enough ways out there to figure out what's up. Part of me always
just Google your own name, and then like you'll realize how much information is there about your family is on there and all that.
So one of the things I really enjoyed when I was checking out your channel and a lot of your stuff is your video editing is like insanely sharp and skilled. And I've got all of Mr. Matthews' Do you want me to call you Rob or Mr. Matthews? I guess that's a question as well.
Oh,
Is kind of where did that name
Mr.
come from?
Well, in the early days when we were just mainly on like forums and bulletin boards, that was my handle. I think that's how a lot of YouTubers got their name, is that whatever they're using Call of Duty or whatever board, that became their YouTube handle. And I just never changed it, even though I am a Mr. I'm not a Matthews. That was just a name that I kind of pulled out of the air 20 years ago. So
that's interesting, because my name is nowhere associated with like any of my online gameplays back in the day. Like my PSN name is, I mean, I'm hardly online anymore just because multiplayer. I don't know, what are your thoughts about like multiplayering? Like I
hardly ever did. I never really did it. By the time I actually had any like online friends that I could do that with, I just had kind of drifted away from any kind of online gameplay type games anyway. So I just never really couch co-op. Would I do multiplayer? Never really got involved in any online play.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I only played with like obviously the people that I knew, and then maybe met some people through them. And then that kind of dwindled off, because I remember playing Gears of War back in the day. Like everyone was playing Halo and stuff. Like me and my one friend, we played Gears of War like crazy. We loved Gears of War. Met a couple people.
That. Me too. So let's talk about that for a little bit, but go ahead.
No, yeah, 1 through 3. Here you go. Where did you stop playing Gears of War? I played 1 through 3 and Judgment Day.
War 2, sadly, because what was it? Because I was a 360 guy. I loved Gears of War 1 and 2, and then while waiting for Gears of War 3 to come out, my other favorite series got a third game on the PlayStation 3, and I got tired of not being able to play that one, so I sold my entire 360, everything to GameStop, got PS3 and God of War 3, and then I've been a PlayStation guy ever since. So
I was in
college. I missed Gears of War, and I was really irritated they took so long to come out with Gears of War 3, because I would have waited for that game.
I hear you. Yeah, I played 1 through 3. And then I played Judgment Day actually not too long ago, but I kind of stopped there. And then what were they on, like 5 Gears of War? I stopped there.
I want to, because they kind of rebooted the series. Like
I
lost contact with that series. I watched because I was so invested in Gears of War 3 that I actually just watched a playthrough on YouTube just so I just want to see how the story ends, you know?
Oh man.
So I got closure on that. So it's like I haven't followed it since then.
Nah, yeah. It's good. I would say a great trilogy, and just end it there. Because I tried playing 4 and I just stopped, because I'm just like, I don't care about any of this and whatnot. Judgment Day,
what about Judgment though?
Judgment was good. Judgment Day was good. I enjoyed it because that was with Baird.
Yeah, he's my favorite character in the game.
Yeah, that one I think is the last one that captures what made Gears of War in my opinion, and I would recommend people playing it. And then depending on how the new one's coming and they don't bastardize it with a bunch of garbage, I'll check it out. But
because I think you're right. I think they are on technically Gears of War 5 right now, right? Or is it Gears of War 6 already?
Well, I think it's 4 and 5, and then there's Emergency Day is the newest one.
Okay.
We do have technology. I could just look over here and take a gander at it.
Yeah,
and for those of you that were wondering if I was listening to Rob when I was kind of looking over this way, the software that I'm using lovingly made a YouTube setup scheduled, but not for Rumble, even though they said your account is connected. So I was making sure that Rob got, the full, focus of everything by having a nice thumbnail and everything. So good job, Rumble. Well, technically, who knows? Who knows whose fault it could be? But it's Restream.
We'll go. Let's
see. What's up?
We'll go with that one.
We'll go with that one. Let's see. Gears of War. I'm more than positive. There's Gears 5, 2019? Wow. I am so out of the loop. Are you up to date with like dates and stuff like that? I feel I am absolutely terrible with like video game dates and stuff like that.
I honestly, after a certain point, I literally just kind of stopped paying attention to just any kind of modern game. Because I guess my main modern series that I'm in love with would be God of War. I didn't really like the God of War games that came out. I bought them, played them, fine. Kind of, they didn't really blow my skirt up. I like Resident Evil. Haven't really been keeping up with that one either. So there's only like so many different series that are actually going to even catch my attention these days. For the most part, it's boring, I think, to a lot of people, but it's like I'm very retro minded. So that's mostly what I play.
Well, one, I know I don't find it boring because I'm actually a retro gamer myself. Good. And that could be another question, maybe to get your opinion on too. Did you see the recent thing with Xbox raising their prices?
No, but what
oh, wow. Okay, so you know how Nintendo like charging a stupid price for Nintendo Switch 2? Xbox just announced that they are raising their prices on their consoles. Their consoles
that doesn't really shock me, I guess. Like I have certain opinions about that I guess are kind of contrarian, but I guess the way I see it is when I was a kid, this was 11, 12, this was 1991, 92. Video games cost $50, $50 to $60. 10 years ago, when I'm now 31, 35, I wasn't 31 10 years ago. They were $50, $60. So, you know, it is kind of strange. And I do like paying less money for stuff too. However, it is strange that the cost of everything has gone up and yet video games have stayed the same. Like a 3DS game was the same cost as a Game Boy game, and $40 for a Game Boy game was a lot different than $40 for a 3DS game today. So it's, I want to say that $40 in 1990 might have been the equivalent of $70. I don't know.
I look at it more as those games from the past. A lot of them are good. Some of them are not good, obviously. Like you can easily say that about the Nintendo, the NES. There's a lot of not so good games on there. But the games nowadays do not have the soul and passion put into it anymore, in my opinion.
I do agree with that.
And I think that because of that, people do not want to pay $80 now, because that's what Nintendo is charging for their new Mario Kart game, which if you like Mario, and this is the thing, is that Nintendo, for example, there's going to be people that are going to buy it regardless. And that's pretty much what the company is just going to bank on.
Yeah.
Is that. But I do think there's also going to be a pushback of parents as well going, you know, your boomers that are going to go in and go, my kid is asking for this. And hopefully, if the, you know, the salespeople aren't scummy, they're going to go, oh, for the Switch or Switch 2. And it's like, well, which one? What's the difference? I don't know. And what I'm getting at is they're ultimately going to go down to, wait a minute, why is this one this price and this one's cheaper? Well, it's an older version, but it's cheaper, so I'm just going to go with that one. You know, like I feel like a lot of parents are going to do that. But then, of course, there's going to be some people that will be like, nope, we're getting the Switch 2 and stuff like that. But that's my biggest thing, is that a lot of games nowadays are like glorified walking simulators, which that's my biggest thing, is that I know when I think of, you know, remember when Call of Duty was insane, when Kevin Spacey, regardless of what you think of him, when he was there and everyone was freaking out because it's like, oh my gosh, it looks exactly like him and stuff like that. That was cool. But, you know, who really asked for that? I feel like a lot of people didn't really ask for that. And yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Like I think that even at that point, I think that game would have sold just as well without paying for a high dollar actor like Kevin Spacey. Is what I think you're saying. I agree with that.
Yep. No.
Because I mean that is like a preemptive counterpoint to a point I would have made, is that, when we were kids, the teams that are making these games were like what, 8, 12 people maybe sometimes.
Exactly. And
now there are hundreds of people. So it's like I can definitely see why they would cost more, because there is so much more expensive and they take much longer to develop also. So I can see both sides. I don't want to pay $80 for a game when I paid $50 last generation. However, I don't know, just maybe I'm just too complacent, and also because I have no stake. I'm not a modern. It's not really probably going to affect me too much.
No, yeah. I mean, to me, it's not going to affect me either, because I'm working on a backlog list that you can find on my locals, by the way. Join that. And you can also find all of Rob's stuff in the description below. Check him out and support him, because he has, and we'll get into it as well. Like, I was blown away by your editing style. It was so sharp and clean. But to finish my point, and I think there's even been studies that people are going back to the old games because they just don't care about modern games anymore, because a lot of political ideology is being put in there that doesn't need to be put in there. It's one thing if the game has a specific message, which they've done, and they've failed because they don't sell your Concord, your Dustborn. So that's one thing, which no one really is stopping anybody of going, yeah, if you want to make that game, go ahead, but do not get mad when it doesn't sell. And it doesn't sell. And what do? They blame, well, why isn't, you're not buying it because of whatever label you want to project onto them, sort of thing. But that's why a lot of people are turning back to the old games too. And there's such a library of the old school games out there that you could be playing those forever, I think, and not even worried about the modern games.
I don't think that, and I don't even think you'd have to go too far back in our generations to find enough games to literally play for the rest of your life. Yeah, I don't. If you were actually like trying out, if you're being serious about trying out games, I don't know if you'd even get into the PS3 generation by the time you died of old age. If you obviously it's accounting for you actually playing every game, you're not going to do that, but.
Well, yeah,
there's plenty of options looking backwards, which is what I got such a backlog. Also, I'd rather get through that. Full disclosure, we will probably end up with the Switch 2 in this house, and that Mario Kart game looked pretty sweet. So I mean, because I buy so little modern games, I'm more open to paying more, because I know $80 for a game. This will probably be the only game I buy this year. So that makes me a little bit more open to paying more. Whereas when, it sounds like you're a collector too. So, when you're buying hundreds of games a year, you want that price to be as low as possible. You want $1, $5 games.
Exactly. So what was your first video game console that you've ever played?
The first one would be the Atari 2600. It was a hand-me-down from my dad, and that was one of my earliest memories, was being so impressed with myself that without my parents' help, I managed to turn on the TV and turn on the Atari and was able to start playing a game all by myself without having to ask for help.
Nice.
But I mean, that was just something that got handed to me, so I don't really have that much sentiment for it. My first real console would be the NES. That was one where I actually, saved up money, my allowance money and all that kind of stuff. And we bought the NES, and that was, I guess, my first real childhood console. Because after that, obviously, Atari was in the trash.
Yep.
So to speak. I think we kept it for a while, but.
Gotcha. Yeah, that was my that's the first console I remember playing, and definitely making an impact on my life too. Would you say that the NES was that impactful, or would you kind of say, I mean, I guess not just the NES. Well, I guess what would be the console, whether that's handheld or, a console that really impacted you in a way that it's like, yeah, I really want to pursue like keeping up with video games and whatnot, if you can
because obviously when you're a kid, you're just playing games. All games are fun, so it's hard to say something really impacts you until you're nothing impacts you when you're a kid until you're actually old enough to start looking back, and those were the good old days, you know. So it was all, I think, all the same and all fantastic to me as a kid. As an adult, where I actually have more experience and more maturity, I guess, to actually look at the games I'm playing, I would say that probably the GameCube has been more of a impactful system. Now,
very cool.
NES is probably officially one of my favorite consoles, and I'd put the GameCube on there just because of the sentiment around it. But I mean, obviously, everything. I feel like I'm answering your question in two different ways. So, the NES was a very pivotal system for me. So that's the time frame that I'm always looking back as retro. That's my magic time. So NES, Game Boy, not so much Genesis, Super Nintendo. I never really got into those. And then it was the GameCube that kind of got me back into gaming as an adult. So that's why I kind of give that one the, I guess the nod as the most pivotal console. Because I mean, that was when I'm actually making a decision as an adult. This is what the hobby that I want to pursue for the next foreseeable 20 some odd years. So
that's really interesting. So you kind of skipped over, the console wars of Sega and Super Nintendo. Well, I guess technically Nintendo, Sega, and then Super Nintendo.
Yeah. I had a Sega Genesis. That was
same here.
When I got that one, that generation. But I didn't really appreciate the Sega Genesis. I loved Sonic 1 and 2, and that was it. I played other games. I thought they were okay. I had other games that I had Aladdin, Jurassic Park, Sonic 3, the same games that everyone had. You're back.
That was weird. I didn't touch a single thing.
You kind of glitched out a little bit.
Yeah, apparently so, because I saw it on my end go.
But then I was looking at all my friends. My friends had all this. All my friends had the Super Nintendo. I was the only one with the Sega Genesis, and they had games like Mega Man X, and I loved Mega Man from the NES. I didn't feel like we got a very good Castlevania game on the Sega Genesis as a kid. I rented it. I didn't really like it that much, so I was always kind of jealous about that. Like the Super Nintendo Bloodlines, yeah. I always was so jealous of the games that came out for the Super Nintendo. So because of that, I didn't really appreciate what I had. But then at the same time, I didn't have a Super Nintendo, so I also didn't get attached to that system at all. So it's like looking back, I have no memories of playing any Super Nintendo or Genesis game as a kid, just because I didn't really get emotionally invested in either console.
Yeah, because I can remember I had the Sega Genesis as well, and it's interesting because I've been kind of trying to look back and seeing the same game, but on Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo, but they're slightly different. Like, for example, your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You have Hyperstone Heist and you have Turtles in Time. Obviously, everyone knows what Turtles in Time is. A lot of people will not really know Hyperstone Heist, but then when you play it, they'll go, "Oh, it's Turtles in Time." Well, I've been trying to find those type of games to compare between the two, because the only way I could experience Super Nintendo is when we would go to church. We had a family friend who their family had Super Nintendo, so we would trade consoles with each other.
Oh, really?
It was that was one of the fun times I can remember too. It was always exciting to go to church, and then it's like, here's our Super Nintendo, or here's our Sega. And
there's no way my parents would have ever let me do that as a kid.
Well, I guess my parents were trustworthy enough, because I mean, I still have all my original Sega Genesis stuff, but that's how I was able to experience.
So what games did you have as a kid then?
For me, for Sega, I played. Funny enough, I didn't really own Sonic, but I played Sonic. But I had Jurassic Park Rampage Edition, Ghostbusters. I was super happy about getting Ghostbusters. Yeah, I remember going to a place called Funkoland and got a complete copy of Ghostbusters. I was so happy to get that, because we had a rental place that had Ghostbusters, and some asshole never returned it. So we would always go there and go, "Oh, please let it be behind the case," and it wasn't. And it's like, I hate everything. sort of thing. But oh geez, we had that. We played like the X-Men games.
Mm-hmm.
You had X-Men Clone Wars, X-Men 2 Clone Wars. Let's see, your Mortal Kombat, and it was always exciting because Sega Genesis had the blood code and all that stuff. But that's what I remember playing. I would say, like, to kind of answer the question I asked you of what like console really made an impression on me, I would actually say the PlayStation 2, because I remember.
Okay, so you kind of like almost feel the same. Okay.
Yep.
So I don't feel weird saying the GameCube for me. So
no. That's why I was like, oh, okay, because like I would say the PlayStation 2, because I remember getting the fat. Yeah, we got the fat PS2, and me and my brother each got a game. My brother got Grand Theft Auto 3, which he was old enough to play that game, and I got Dynasty Warriors 3.
Oh, so he got the better game then. Well, do you like Dynasty Warriors?
I do actually like those Muso games. I do like Muso games. I like hack and slash games and Muso games and stuff like that. Now, I never kept up with Dynasty Warriors, but I did enjoy that game. So, I would say probably same with Grand Theft Auto as well. Like, I played 3 Vice City, and then really I kind of stopped after that. Honestly, is that like a series that you kind of checked into?
Well, when I had the 360, I would also play Xbox games. So I had like Xbox, the real Xbox One,
Yeah.
So I had Grand Theft Auto San Andreas on the Xbox, and I did like that one a lot. I liked that one. I played that. I never beat it, but I spent a lot of time playing that game. Just kind of around.
I'm a bad person. I have never played San Andreas,
and I've never played Vice City or the original Grand Theft Auto 3.
Yeah.
So I didn't really play. Yeah, that seems weird to say. I feel strange saying that.
No. Well, I was commenting on a comment that I see.
Sorry.
But it does apply to you as well, because my my brother is saying, Greg, do you know the story about how our parents gave us the Nintendo for Christmas? Yes, I do know. I do know that story. So this is how smart my parents were. So get this. So, like I said, our first console was the Nintendo. Now, we experienced the Nintendo by renting the console. Well, we kept asking to rent it for so much. My dad calculated it and go, it'd be easier just to buy this for them. And then, because the amount they were asking us to rent this, if we bought it, like if they asked it X amount of times, like we paid for the whole system. So I'm getting to it. So whenever we would say, hey, can we rent the Nintendo? My dad would go out, do errands, but he bought the Nintendo and he had it hidden away. And when he would come home, he would just open up the Nintendo, put it in a bag, and then pretend to walk in saying, all right, I rented it. Boom. And then come Christmas, put it back away, wrapped it up, gave it to us as a gift. And
that is hilarious.
Yep.
Your dad is awesome.
Yep. My dad was a smart one. Yeah. My brother says, yeah, mom and dad bought the NES, and from March to December, they hid it until we rented it from the video store. Then we got it for Christmas. Yep, exactly. That's what I was commenting on too. But it is also interesting. I mean, that's also another thing too, as well, and I think that's why I really enjoy game streaming as well, is that a lot of the series that a lot of people say, oh, it's such a classic. Like, I felt like I kind of missed out on that. But by game streaming, I could share my experience for the first time with people and enjoy it.
I kind of scrolled down. I saw the games you've been playing, like Okami and Dead Space 2.
Yep.
I never played Dead Space 2. I did play the first one on the 360, and I did like it. I just never followed the series at all. So that's the only one I've ever played.
Yep, that's kind of how I am with a lot of games, is like I never continue with the series. Like, if I continued one series, it was the Dragon Ball Z games, because I loved Dragon Ball Z. I loved Budokai Tenkaichi, but I like Budokai. I'm a rare person. I like the Budokai series more than Budokai Tenkaichi, because everyone goes to Tenkaichi because it's like, oh, you can manually fly and like do all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, but Budokai was just, I love that style, and yeah, it was just too good. But another thing is, when I was watching you when you were on Phoenix's show, you seem to specialize in Game Boy, or have a lot of Game Boy games that you kind of pointed out in the back, and like
they're right there. Right.
Yep, right there. So what is it about the Game Boy that just like got a hold of you and you're like, this is the games, I guess you could say, that I want to really focus on? And can you share a little about that?
Sure. So I did have an NES, but I didn't really have too many games. I had, I think, 5 or 6 games. I had the Game Boy, and that very quickly became my favorite game system as a kid, because I could play it in the car, I could play it in my room, and to me, being a stupid kid, these were the same games as were on the NES, only now I'm playing it, on the way to grandma's house, or at a boring meeting at my dad's work, and that kind of stuff. So
I can relate to that.
Oh my God. I literally thought that these were like 1-to-1 conversions of NES games.
If only.
Yeah, I wish. To me, they were. Honestly, I think I got as much enjoyment out of those games, and I sucked at games. So I wasn't beating these tiny little Game Boy games any faster than I was.
To interrupt, we had the Game Gear.
A Game Gear? Yeah.
We had a Game Gear.
And I thought that was cool too. I just
still have it.
Color. I got like a bunch of Game Gears and Game Gear. I've just been collecting stupid stuff for the past 25 years now. So
hey, that's the best thing. But sorry to interrupt. If you want to continue that.
So anytime I asked for a game, it would be a Game Boy game. So I want to say I might have had like 30 Game Boy games as a kid, which was
cool.
An insane amount of games, considering that I think most of us had just like the 5 or 6, whatever we got for Christmas and Thanksgiving, birthdays,
Hey, if you got it for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, if you got a Thanksgiving gift, that'd be fantastic. I might actually get 3 games a year, but
that'd be amazing.
So that was what I spent my money on. And so that and even though looking back on it, obviously that game system and its games have their warts and their flaws and that kind of stuff. But because I loved it so much as a kid, and no one really talks about it that much, that kind of became that'll be my retro system. So back in, and we could kind of talk about this because I wanted to ask about this too.
Yeah, sure.
Back when YouTube was starting to become kind of cool, and people were talking about angry video game nerds and stuff.
2006.
Yeah, I think about
around that time.
I came kind of late, so this might have been like 2007, 2008-ish. That's when I started thinking, well, shoot, if Pat the NES Punk can make a video, then that looks pretty easy to do. So more so the angry video game nerd, I'll just pull the curtain back. Pat was probably my original influence.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, mine was AVGN.
I think most people, and obviously, I think it's safe to say that probably AVGN would be my secondhand influence, since he clearly influenced a lot of people that.
You didn't get my AVGN influence with my Powder Keg Greg series.
I picked up on a little bit of that angry video game. But I mean, one of my original ideas is what I could do with my channel was I'll just review the same as Angry Video Game Nerd and Pat review an NES game every episode. I'll review a Game Boy game every episode. And I wrote down some ideas and just never went anywhere with it. So
that's actually not a bad idea, actually.
And so and honestly, back then, I think there were even less people talking about the Game Boy. So, because when I was collecting for the Game Boy, those games were like nothing. Like the games that are like $800 today, they were like 20.
Oh gosh, don't get me started on the bubble.
Yeah. And retro, the Game Boy was slow to catch on to that also. So I mean, the NES was the first system to blow up, because Angry Video Game Nerd probably. And then once everyone kind of got tapped out on the NES, then the other systems started coming along. Like now the Super Nintendo games prices were going up, and then it took a while for the Genesis to actually get up there, it seems like.
Yeah, I would say so. I feel like Yeah, I feel like with Genesis, I think it probably took a while just because you could probably well, I don't know. I feel like you could probably find more Genesis stuff complete because, like, with Super Nintendo and Nintendo, because it was the cardboard boxes, a lot of people just ripped them up and threw them out.
Yeah.
Genesis, and I always point to Genesis as being what would it be? The primordial beginnings of like a solid game case manual, clipping the game cartridge inside of it, having the tab there. Like it was the beginning of the full package, and
Right.
you got it and stuff. Where, I mean, but certain games on Nintendo, like Zelda, for example, they had that map, that detailed, colorful book that explains the story. There's that too, but I think Genesis really got that too. But I interrupted you again. Go continue.
I think I might have been done. But I mean, that's
okay. Well.
So now that and then when I actually did start making videos, I just went with NES because that's just low hanging fruit. I had plenty of things to say about NES games. And then once I kind of got a little bit more, I guess, comfortable making videos, then I was like, I kind of revisit this idea of making reviews of Game Boy games. And so that's what I've been doing for the past 3 years. I think now I just focusing almost exclusively on Game Boy, which doesn't really have the same I guess kitschiness is like NES, but I'm passionate about those games. Hopefully that kind of comes through. And a lot of the comments I get are almost like expressions of gratitude that there aren't many people talking about Game Boy games, and I love these games. And I was like, well, I like those games too, so I'm gonna make more videos.
No, yeah, continue it, dude. I think you definitely show passion into it from the videos that I watch.
Thank you.
Absolutely, man. And like I mentioned many times, I was just blown away by your editing. Is that something that you went to college for or self-taught or
No,
something like that?
that was completely self-taught. So when
that's amazing, man.
Originally started making YouTube videos, it was just Let's Plays. And so I played, I think one of the first things I played was I played through Pokemon Emerald or something. Whatever the third generation Pokemon game is.
Gosh, that's a series that I want to still continue, but stopped after a while because it's just, to me, it's just going downhill.
It's very dense. Yeah,
it's getting very dense. And geez, what have I don't even remember. Like what, Y2 or something was my like black.
The last one I played was
I can't remember.
Was Pokemon White, and I was like, I had a lot of fun with it, but I was like, I don't want to sink another 120 hours into another Pokemon game. I got what I need out of this game. I'm good. So I like the characters. I still talk about Pokemon with my kids.
I don't
really play the games.
I've been playing Pokemon Pocket for the phone. It's like the trading card game, but it's a simplified
my
version
son is
of it.
Playing that, yeah.
Oh,
because I got addicted to Pokemon Go. Way more addicted than I care to admit. So
we did that a little bit too, and then I kind of fell off. Yeah, I got with Pokemon Pocket just because I still try to, and I still have it. My brother and I, and my friends, we would collect the Dragon Ball Z collectible card game. And that's the score one, and that's been long past. Even the Panini revival, that's gone too. And that just kind of, I love that feeling of trading cards, because I remember as a kid, definitely with Pokemon, to where no one really knew how to play the game. It was just, I have this card. Oh, that one's rare. You want to trade it? Because I remember trading cards back in elementary school, and it was just, I just love those times.
I was my kids got into the trading card game, and so I learned the game. My wife and I learned the game to play with the kids, and then we ended up liking the trading card game more than the kids did. So my wife and I just started playing the game together.
Oh, cool.
It's been years since we played it, but at that point, I was enjoying buying the packs of cards, and hey, you got a shiny Rayquaza. I don't remember Rayquaza. I don't remember the names anymore. That's how bad I am.
Oh, I'm terrible to where I still think it's amazing seeing the very first gens.
Yeah.
like to me, it's like you just can't beat those. Like, I don't know, it's just so weird. It's just like after the 151, it's like, why should I care about these other ones? You know, there's some cool ones like Surfetched, like the evolution of
a
rather new, cool. Rather new evolution of Farfetch'd. But going back to editing, because I find that absolutely amazing. Because I got a BFA of art. They call it the time arts. So it was kind of like an umbrella of 2D, 3D animation, graphic design, all that stuff. Not so much a specialty, and kind of reflecting on it now, I probably should have picked something to specialize in more, but it was pretty much covering the technology at that time. I went to college from 2006 to 2010, so that's kind of like that time too. Back when a terabyte was like insane. I remember that when it's like you got a terabyte drive, and it was like, or no, was it a gigabyte? It might have been. I don't remember. Whatever. But it was like, regardless. But you said you're self-taught, and
so I
but
guess where I was going with the Pokemon thing is that
yeah,
I would upload these, let me playing this Pokemon game, and then what I would use the intros and outros for, and no one's watching these. This is just for my own lulz. I would make like really rudimentary animated intros and animated outros. I spent more time doing that, and I was just having fun with it. And at some point, I kind of clicked that. Well, what if I just do this for a whole video? It's not about Pokemon. What if I do this for these other? And so I kind of started doing voiceover, and then it's like, well, it sure would take me a whole lot less time to edit this video if I didn't have to animate everything. Maybe I'll start appearing on camera too. So it just kind of was a series of what I thought were conveniences and shortcuts. And I just, I'm also interested in doing it. I enjoy doing it. So I also watch like YouTube video. A great place to find out how to do YouTube is on YouTube.
Yep.
So I'm always looking for old tips on audio. Audio drives me crazy. Little video tips and just stuff like that. So it's been a passion I didn't know I had until I started kind of dabbling into it. Because I did come from like the more old school YouTube train of thought, where it does seem like the scripted video is kind of not as fashionable as it once was. At least from what I've seen.
Yeah, the algorithm just keeps changing, and it depends like what you're doing. Like they're really trying to push the long content form, but not live stream, from what I've heard some people talk about. But again, I feel like it's a case by case situation sort of thing, because I know for me, what I've recently been dabbling in is the YouTube shorts, like, because those can zing off just like that.
They really can.
It's crazy, and I've been experimenting of like when to upload and stuff like that. But no, yeah, you definitely have a knack for it too, because that's what caught my eye, especially. And then when you stated like you kind of were self-taught, and then of course looking at YouTube videos and stuff like that, because there's some effects in there that are like I've seen in your videos that are like really sharp.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I just try to just it sounds like a cop out. I just try to make the kind of videos that I enjoyed watching to the best of my ability. Like, how did I think you did you say you like the game? I could have sworn when we were on Phoenix's, when you had Panda sub on. Did you mention the Game Chasers as on that? Maybe you didn't. Maybe
I did not mention that. I do know the Game Chasers. I have heard of them, but I did not mention it.
So Game Chasers, Angry Video Game Nerd, obviously. These are videos I enjoyed. Very sharp editing in all those videos. So I was like, well, how did they do that? So this is me kind of fumbling through. This is how I would do what they have done. We'll see how close it gets. So I guess through trying to emulate other people, that's just kind of how I became self-taught.
Well, I just think, I mean, no, I get what you're saying. I just think it's fascinating because like it's you definitely like have that knack, or like to pick it up. At least in my opinion, it looks like you were able to pick it up like rather quickly. And that's and a lot of people don't acknowledge that rare talent, I feel like, of people that just seem to have a knack for stuff and to do it, sort of thing.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. But I think it just comes from being excited about something, a hobby that I didn't even know I was interested in. So it made it didn't feel like I was picking it up. It just felt like I was just kind of hungrily consuming any kind of techniques I could find to help make the kind of video I wanted. And it just kind of became into, all of a sudden I'm calling myself a YouTube video editor or whatever. I don't know.
I love it. Do you check? Yeah, go ahead.
Good. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say with like editing techniques and whatnot. When I was working for a company, we would utilize a lot. Like the big thing now is you can go to places like Motion Array. Have you ever heard of Motion Array?
I have.
Or anything like that, and that's where a lot of people have stock presets and stuff already made, and then you can just drag. A lot of it's becoming drag and drop sort of thing. Is that something that you've kind of been utilizing in, or are you?
No, because I don't want to pay for any kind of extra. So I'm guessing you have to pay for.
Oh, of course. Well, I mean,
I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So if
you can pay for it if you want. I mean,
yeah, I guess there's maybe wink, ways around that. So as far as like, I tend to make my own. Because I used to just use any kind of stock footage I could find, and then I kind of felt like, because you've probably been here too, where you're watching another YouTube video, and then they put a picture on the screen or something. You're like, hey, I found that picture also. I have that exact X bar, that exact no sign on my file, and I was like, well, maybe I'd rather have my own pictures. So I started kind of making my own kind of stuff. So a lot of the graphics I use, I wouldn't call myself a graphic designer by any stretch of the imagination. The simple backgrounds and stuff, and I try to make my own as much as I can, for as much time as I want to put into something that might be on the screen for maybe half a second. So
yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah, I always think it's fun. I do think that's kind of a charm, like with that as well. There's an old YouTube channel that I used to watch. It's called Third Rate Gamer, and it was one of those channels that kind of made fun of the angry video game review styles. So your AVGN, your Chris Boris, Irate Gamer,
right,
and all that stuff. And like, it's funny. It definitely hits you back of like the early days of YouTube, because like the camera quality is absolute garbage, but it's also part of the charm, because he's like, look at my sweet editing. And it's like exactly what you're talking about. Like the stock footage of him with just a very shitty cutout of his face, like on a Microsoft clip art of like some kid riding a bike, and it's still the picture and it's just like moving. He's like, it looks like I'm really riding my bike. Like, oh man, I do think it would be amazing to see like that early YouTube stuff kind of come back and kind of remind people of the charm of like what made, or like YouTube, what made YouTube fun. Because you can definitely go down, like talk forever about how YouTube has become what it is today, and it's probably not for the best.
It was, I mean, there's some things that obviously had to change, and I don't think Angry Video Game Nerd gets enough credit for kind of shaping the landscape of YouTube that we have today. Because I mean, that he was one of the first ones that I'm aware of anyway that actually had an actual show where you're like, I'm gonna watch this instead of watching CSI on TV. And you're excited about a new episode, and there was kind of a narrative to his episodes. He actually crafted a YouTube videos instead of talking head videos, and stupid prank videos were what were huge back then. And talking head videos are still popular now, obviously, but everyone was doing as low effort content as possible. And then you have James, who's making an actual, practically a short film for YouTube. And so I think he helped inspire countless people directly.
I agree. I mean, I would say
people who watched him. And then the people who were inspired by him and started making their own videos, like you have like Pro Jared and you have John Tron, you know, but hundreds of people.
Oh yeah,
they started being the influence for it. So it like was this neat little pyramid where one guy, I'll just ascribe all the glory to him. One guy influenced like 5, and then those 5 influenced 20, and then so it just. I want to say that you could just he's one of the main content creators. You could all trace that back to where we are today, for better or worse. For him,
I would say worse. I would agree for sure. Definitely the like well said of what you said about actually like having a show that, and comparing it to like what you said about a TV show. Like I agree 100% on that for sure. Definitely. I know he was an influence for me. Same with like Nostalgia Critic and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, since you mentioned him, Nostalgia Critic would be one of those OG channels also. I think that independently, he and James kind of found their niche pretty solidly. And then, do you watch those guys today?
Unfortunately, I do not anymore.
Okay.
And not so much of like the controversy, because I know Nostalgia Critic had the controversy. Like I don't know if you know
the
about
Channel
it.
Awesome.
Yeah, Channel Awesome document or something.
Yeah.
I remember I looked into it, but I didn't really. I was like, okay, whatever, sort of thing. James, I return every now and then, but I am one of those to where it does feel like he seems a tad bit burnt out, but it's the cow, it's the show that still gets him,
It just feels like it feels very obligatory to him now.
Yeah.
I'm still subscribed because every now and then I still like to go back because the first 6, 7, 8, maybe I'll stop at maybe 7. Just after he made his movie, those first seasons, I guess you call them, fantastic. They're still as primitive as they are to watch today. They're still extremely watchable. So really good stuff.
Oh yeah, I would say yeah. Sadly,
and I still go back. I rewatch all that stuff.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, I would say like I'm kind of weird when it comes to just subscribing to people in general. Like I don't know why. Like I'll like I'm trying to start subscribing to people to like, obviously show support and stuff, but like for the longest time it's like I would just type in like, the video and then just watch it sort of thing, It was just really weird. So I don't know why, but I'm trying to do that. Like I'm subscribed to you, which is what people should also out there be doing as well, is subscribe to this guy over here because he is insanely talented with editing. All of his information is in the description below. And I think I saw your 3K on YouTube, right?
Yeah, I just broke a 3K recently on YouTube. I
also
upload on. Thank you.
Get that up. I'm not talking. Well, I'm talking to you, but I'm talking to them. Like, go.
Well, I'll subscribe to myself too. Just set example.
There you go.
I also upload on anything I upload on YouTube. I try to also put on Rumble too. Rumble doesn't have Rumble audiences don't have the same taste as.
Yeah, I noticed. Yeah. I know they're trying. And I guess that could be another question. Like, what are your thoughts on Rumble? Because I know they're trying to really push the gaming aspect to it, and I'm kind of indifferent about it because the people that they're pushing already have an established audience. And for being a platform that's talking about free speech, the little guy and whatnot, I'm just waiting for that one platform to do a bunch of Rocky Balboa instances, to just give whoever like a chance sort of thing. But it just seems that it's the same old thing of like, oh, that person who used to be on Twitch got banned recently, so why don't you come over here and that sort of thing too. And I understand like the money obviously the money element to it, because if you get a well-known person over there, I mean, that's going to be pocketing, money in your pocket, money in their pocket sort of thing. But I mean, like to me in general, like it just, I mean, and I'm not saying that it's easy, because it's definitely not easy. To me, it blows my mind, the people who like just know exactly how to work the algorithm and just get their channels to explode. Like, I still can't wrap my head around it, sort of thing. I think
And
it's crazy.
yeah, I guess you have to be like wired a certain way to not only have the ideas, but also be charismatic enough to actually make videos that spread like wildfire.
Mm-hmm.
Not that every successful person on YouTube or Twitch, whatever, is. There's some very boring people. I'm like, how did you become popular? Because you kind
Oh,
of.
I'm the same way. But
Yeah.
that's another interesting thing too, because well, at least for me, what I try to do is, I noticed a lot of people are really starting to go for people who are just transparent, who are
Mhm.
just themselves. Because it feels like I've seen videos of like the big YouTubers like PewDiePie, for example. I never really watched him, but I remember seeing a video of, I didn't watch the video, I watched a little bit of it, but it was essentially him going like, I started feeling like I couldn't be myself,
Mhm.
like, and now I'm not. And in a nutshell, to me, it's like, well, okay, you were putting on a character, which is fine,
Mhm.
but to me, it's just like, why not just be yourself to begin with, you know? And of course, there's the whole like, well, if you're yourself, you may not grow, but it's like, well, at least, you're at this point now where you're like, oh, I'm not feeling satisfied with everything, and in order for me to feel satisfied, I just need to be myself. It's like, well, why not just start that to begin with, sort of thing. That's just kind of how I think. Plus, like, I never really like the whole announcery where it's like, "Hey guys, what's going on?" It's like,
Right.
whoa, like turn down the fake enthusiasm, like from
But
11
that's really
to.
beneficial to
I
the
know, I know,
younger kids.
I
They
know.
love
That's the
like all the
that's.
Minecraft people talk like that,
I know, and
screaming to their monitors.
oh gosh, what are they now? Zoomers, the
I
Zoomer.
think they're Zoomers now.
I hate the Zoomer lingo. I
Me
hate
too.
it.
It just
I hate it so much.
like my oldest son is in my oldest kids already graduated high school. So I mean they were keeping us up to date on
Mhm.
the lingo and like bet and terms like all the feels and that kind of stuff.
Oh gosh.
It's like,
Oh.
dude, you kids are retarded compared to us. We would tear you guys up, make you guys
Oh,
cry.
yeah. Yeah. But I kind of, went off tangent about, well, I still wanted to get your thoughts on
Oh, sorry.
on Rumble, because that was my fault. I kind of went off.
That's all right. It's easy to go off on tangents. I don't know. I guess I'm a little I'll be totally frank. Rumble, I am disappointed with you in your platform.
And
I'm
this Yeah, I'm with you.
just
Yeah.
because I think they legit want to be like a like who doesn't want to actually be as big as YouTube?
Mhm.
It's a very fair goal to have. They're not doing the right things to actually do it. It's um, you won't be as big as YouTube until you can just go on Rumble and randomly search and find a tutorial video on how to change your tire on a 1966 Datsun if such a thing exists. You're not going to be a competitor to YouTube until you can actually find a entire community around wood turning like you can on YouTube. There's not like a. I'm sure there's some baking people. I'm sure there's some crafting people, just kind of scattered here and there. Right now, they're all part of essentially the same community, which is great, but they're all kind of linked by just we're on Rumble, so we're all friends now. Whereas on YouTube, you have communities that are thousands of people deep, and they don't know anyone else outside the community exists. So the people who are in um, the crime talk, the true crime community, probably don't have a whole lot of interaction with the people who are in the weird pets community, like the ant farm communities, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Until you can actually duplicate that on Rumble, I don't think they're not really encouraging it. I think what's really big on Rumble right now is not there's anything wrong with podcasts. These are great.
Mhm.
Or live streams, but that's what's really big on Rumble.
I agree.
I haven't really found a whole lot of scripted content. So that means that a lot of the YouTubers who, like myself, who make scripted content, um, there's no no desire to come to Rumble, which means that the audience that watches them also won't come. So
yeah,
you got to find a way to satisfy both those parties, I guess. I don't even know. I'm not a business guy, so I don't know what you would do if that is even something that they want to fix.
No, I agree 100%. Like, I've been a little bit critical about Rumble Studios, for example. I meant Rumble, but to bring up Rumble Studios, yeah, absolutely. Like, I like Rumble Studios because it's free. It allows multi streaming, but you got to be consistent with it, like, guys. Like, and I wouldn't mind doing the podcast on Rumble Studios, but like I can't have it be like this. Like they just have like a zoomed in portion of the camera. And I'm just like, dude, I do not like that look. Like I want to show a background. I want to, I could still pull up, funny video clips and all that stuff. But, to me, it's like, man, if you guys can figure out how to be like a StreamYard's alternative and you're free, or at least, the whole Rumble Premium sort of thing, like, yeah, like what you said, like focus on it for sure. And also what you said too about like communities here as well. And that could be kind of what I was mentioning when it felt like I had a hard time like subscribing to people. I think it's because I've seen it's getting to the point of like, hey, I followed you, so follow me back. And it's like, dude, I have nothing against you, man. But if I don't like your content, like I'm not gonna, subscribe. I'm not gonna subscribe and have a long ass subscription list of like channels that I may not ever visit it again. Sort of thing.
I know exactly what you mean. I feel the same way. So
yeah, I'm like that too. That's why I guess I'm very picky when it comes to that too. And again, it's nothing against people. It's like I need to enjoy the content, sort of thing. Because I'll try to help out people when I can and stuff. But if it's just like, well, I scratch your back, so you should scratch mine. It's like, dude, I don't really owe you anything, owe you anything. And it's unfortunate because I've watched channels to where that ultimately that's where all this infighting comes from. And it's like, oh my gosh, like it gets tiring. Like it's like your very first boss you ever had at a job comes back to you and says, hey, I got a favor, and it's like, dude, like we're done. Like I don't owe you. You don't have anything over me anymore. Like that's kind of how at times I look at it. And it's just like, but I definitely do see that with Rumble too, to where I'm glad everyone's like trying to help each other's out. I really actually like that support element, but yeah, they need to do a way better job in showing that they themselves care about the little creators as well too.
Right. Yeah, I mean that sums up pretty well too. So I didn't like the sub for sub stuff on YouTube. I thought that was like as a content creator, as we're called, it seems like I wouldn't even want that. I don't want you to subscribe to me just because it's like a favor you're doing me. Like
exactly.
A subscription doesn't really mean anything. What matters is the audience. So and this kind of sub for sub mentality doesn't build an audience. It just builds your subscriber number, which doesn't mean anything. That's why you end up with like people who have like 10,000 subscribers, but then their videos have maybe 66 views. So
yep, that's I would be lying to say that was not me. In fact, I have no problem sharing that. My channel was stuck in limbo mode for a long time and trying to break out of that too. And I think part of that was probably me doing, and I wouldn't recommend anybody doing a variety channel. You have to find.
They always tell you don't do that.
Exactly, and I feel like I was kind of good at it, but ultimately, find that niche sort of thing. But yeah, it's what you were getting at too. It's the sleepy subscribers. They just subscribe and you don't see interaction with anybody and whatnot.
And then they turn around and like they want you to do the same for them, and then you don't want to watch their channel because they maybe all they do is it doesn't matter. It's just not a very good recipe, I don't think, for building a community.
I agree. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I watched your video of the Game Boy.
Okay.
But the Game Boy ones.
I did see that you beat.
That's what I was going to bring up.
One. So
that's what I was going to bring up. I recently was playing the Cowabunga collection.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? We're going to try to beat all of these games. I had to save Scum, which I won't lie. I will save Scum. I will save Scum when I have to. And I was because I was playing Tomb Raider as well. And if you do not save Scum, I don't know. You are a wizard at that game because my gosh, Tomb Raider is hard. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, though, is something that I definitely remember growing up with a lot as well. And yeah, I agreed. I really enjoyed that video that you made about that because that third one, Radical Rescue, oh my gosh, that
really is. And I didn't
because that was a ridiculously hard game.
I was trying to remember recently. I was just like, well, maybe I'll just make some top 10 videos. So I was like, what if I make a top 10 video of the hardest games I've played on the Game Boy? And I was trying to think of all the hardest games. And then when you mentioned Ninja Turtles 3, I was like, that's right. That was one of the games that was so, because you play the first ones, they're all very the first two are very basic. And then you come to this one and the boss fights are, I think I said this in the video too, but the boss fights are actually really good, but they're really hard. The first boss you fight, he's really hard. The cat guy, the Scratch, I think his name is.
Ooh, dude,
you actually have to learn their patterns and then get good at them, which is really satisfying to me. But I was like, wow, this is such a big change from the last ones where you literally just kind of mash the attack buttons. Now you actually have to practice and get good at all these bosses.
Yeah.
And then the Shredder battle. Wow. That's really hard.
Oh my gosh. They expect you to get through all that and you can only collect one pizza. It's ridiculous. Yep. I hate it. I safe scummed the crap out of it because I was like, dude, I gotta go.
You practically have to do a no-hit run through 4 bosses that have twice the health bars that they had the first time. And just so you have a chance to maybe get kind of far in the fight with a 2-phase fight with Shredder. So that's a 6 boss rush.
Back to back to back.
That's crazy.
Insane. And number one, like I tip my hat to anyone who can do that. Like, you know, I admitted it. I saved through it because part of me is like, I'm trying to get through my backlog list. And, you know, I feel like I've done my fair share of. I played hard games. I've memorized character patterns. You
put in the work. I did my dues.
I did my dues. Hey, Patty Quinn, what's up over on Rumble? But I tip my hat to anyone who can do that. And to I haven't like watched any playthroughs of people doing it and stuff. But like people who don't get the life extensions, that to do like anybody who can do that without the life extensions is a insane man or a woman, depending on what you are. But
like, and that is, I wouldn't even want to attempt that because that's also a very long game. A good game, but it was awfully long to go through without the health extensions.
And I think that's for me where I was kind of a little upset with it because I actually really like beat 'em up games. So I like the beat 'em up elements. That's one of the things I'm kind of wired about is I like repetition. And of course it has to be something that I'm generally interested in. But that's why probably beat 'em ups is like one of my top favorite genres of video games is I like repetition. So it was a huge like jerk to where it was more Metroidvania sort of elements and whatnot. Did you, I guess with the tie-in with Ninja Turtles, was that like a franchise that you grew up enjoying?
Oh, yeah. I was a huge Ninja Turtles kid. And so the first Ninja Turtles Game Boy Fall of the Foot Clan, that was the game that I wanted. That was like, I want the Game Boy and then I want this game. And so it was exactly what I wanted. It was every bit of the kind of game that I was asking for. You just need to look like the cartoon. That's all I really care about.
So did the cartoon got you into Turtles?
Yeah. So
I was the same way. I read the Mirage comics, so I do respect that. I do enjoy the OG of where everything came from. Also, the live action movies.
Yeah, like it was like a great time as far for we were the OG Ninja Turtle fans.
So good.
So I think I was just like I was in 5th grade, and my friends just started randomly bringing these figures to school. I was like, oh, those are kind of cool. And what are they? Just the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You haven't heard of them? No, I haven't. And then it seems like as soon as he said that, then the dam kind of broke, and then that's when I became exposed to the wave of Ninja Turtle mania. And so that Christmas, my mom was the type to buy me literally everything I wanted. So as soon as I became interested in Ninja Turtles, she went out and she bought all the figures. So that was what I got for Christmas that year. And then I immediately started consuming the comics also. So when I started reading the comics, I read only the original Eastman and Larry comics. I thought those were cool. I was like, well, this is just like the cartoon, only not at all. And it's awesome. There's blood and murder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Raphael was actually like, he wasn't a wisecracking, sarcastic guy like he is in the cartoon. He's actually like a bloodthirsty, like he likes, he's the one who likes to kill people. Oh yeah. That's how he's introduced in that's how he's introduced in the comics. So when they based the first Ninja Turtles movie on those comics, not the cartoon. Well, kind of the cartoon, but it was mainly the comics. It was that story coming out of the original comic story series. I was really excited, and I was like one of the only ones in my friend group, I want to say, that actually recognized it. Like, this is the story. They changed the turtle, but this is because it was Leonardo that. I'm sure you know this too. It was Leonardo who got beat up by the foot and almost died in the comics. They just changed that to Raphael for the movie.
Yeah,
because he is the more interesting character. But anyway, so I was like, I think one of the only ones of my friends to actually recognize that as a comic. So I felt very entitled and very, and maybe not entitled. That's not the right word. I felt very enlightened about that. But yeah, I've always had just as much as I have a soft spot for the Game Boy, I've always had a flag burning for the Ninja Turtles, and they've never gone away. So they always keep on getting rebooted.
Yeah, I don't know about the recent stuff, but I think that's one of the things I kind of wish, if I could re-experience like growing up again, is definitely getting into more comics, because I gotten introduced with the Turtles with the cartoon, so then saw the movie, and it's kind of interesting too, because I remember watching Secret of the Ooze a lot more than the first one, but I really respect the first one. And it's kind of the same way that I had with Ghostbusters. I remember watching Ghostbusters, seeing the cartoon, but watching Ghostbusters 2 and then seeing Ghostbusters 1 later, but also real like, whoa, this is a lot darker and grittier than, Ghostbusters 2. But a lot of people, and I feel I kind of almost like that I was exposed to it a lot that way, than seeing it kind of in chronological order, because I don't have as much disdain, I guess, for Ghostbusters 2 that a lot of people seem to have. Because
I think Ghostbusters 2, it rewatches a whole lot better now than maybe you think it. Not you personally, but
no, I agree.
It's not. There's some genuinely hilarious stuff in that movie. Like, dude, Peter Venkman's show. What's his show called?
Oh, that
whole segment where he's doing his shitty, trashy psychic show.
Yeah.
It's not important to this story, but I wish I could remember what it was called. That is hilarious, and there's some great hilarious jokes.
We have technology. I will look this up.
We can look that up.
Valentine's Day. Yeah. When that lady predicts the end of the world. Let's see. Peter Venkman's show. I like how I'm like Ghostbusters 2. Peter Venkman's show. Wabam. Let's see. What is it called? World of the Psychic with Dr.
Okay, I was thinking like World of the Weird. Is that what it was called?
You were close.
Anyway, there's some good stuff in that. However, it's easy to see that, the first one, they were just kind of making whatever movie they wanted to make. They were kind of surprised, I bet, that it turned out as popular as it was. with the second movie, you could clearly tell that there was an awareness of their younger audience when they made that movie. So, Ray didn't smoke cigarettes anymore. It definitely was not as scary. There's some scary shit in Ghostbusters 1.
I was terrified of the dog scene.
Dude, that dog, when it takes Sigourney Weaver and you see you see the kitchen door like glowing.
Yeah, exactly.
And you see his footsteps. Dude, that was hide behind the couch until the scene was over.
Yeah, that was that, or fast forward through it. Like, I get the gist of what's happening, but like, let's get going.
Even the scene where the eggs are popping out and frying on her counter, obviously, I was young, so I'll give myself that allowance. But dude, that was scary. So I mean, it was a kind of movie that they probably couldn't make anymore. So I get why they toned it down. But Ghostbusters 2 does get trashed on more than it probably deserves. It's still the same people. It's still, I think, the same writers. I think it's still Ivan Reitman. I think he still directed it. So
yeah, he did. Did you ever play the video game, Ghostbusters, the video game,
on the NES or the third or the 360 one?
The 360, 360.
The one that's been
PS3.
The one they basically call Ghostbusters 3.
Well,
I didn't. I bought it. I have it. It's on my backlog. I haven't gotten to it yet.
If you got to play it, man, because when that came out and I played it, I said, "This is Ghostbusters 3. This is the Ghostbusters 3 that everybody wanted."
And didn't Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd actually help write it? So
they are part of it. So and
obviously it's the original cast, all that stuff.
Original cast before Harold's passing. I will not recommend it enough to you, and hope that climbs up on your backlog list, because that game is amazing.
I've made these grand aspirations for myself to play a buttload of games in 2025. I'm officially putting that on my list around the Halloween time. I think that'll be a good time to
Oh, that'd be fun. And I want to know what you think, especially if it's your first time. And if you stream it, I'll hop in and see. I want to see that want to see that reaction, damn it. But I think some people kind of nitpicked it a little bit, but I'm not gonna spoil it or anything. Let you experience it for yourself. But definitely a really good game. And the Sega Genesis Ghostbusters game is actually really good too.
I've played that one too, and I wanted to say this earlier when you were talking about Ghostbusters, having Ghostbusters as a kid. That's one of the bitter pills I had about not really. I always had my foot out the door when I had the Sega Genesis as a kid, so I never looked up game reviews. I never saw what the other kids were playing, and I never actually got curious about the game, the Genesis library, because I would have loved to actually have played and probably owned Ghostbusters when I was a kid. Like these were games that I just missed out on just because I was, I don't know. I guess I had kind of sour grapes. I didn't have a Super Nintendo, kind of. I was
envious. I was envious of the family that we switched consoles with for their Super Nintendo, because I remember playing Super Star Wars.
That's one of the games that I wanted. And there was this was, I think, after the PlayStation came out. One of my friends had a Super Nintendo. I told him, I was probably a senior in high school. I told him to bring that system over to the Super Nintendo over to my house, and then we went out. We rented Super Star Wars. I finally got to experience that game.
Oh, gosh. Great game, but hard as hell,
dude. Because it's also one of the first Super Nintendo games I bought as an adult when I started making my own game collection. I don't know if I'd call it a great game. It's really cool. But man,
I would say so. To it. No, I agree. I honestly think it might be the difficulty. Because I played through 1 through 3. 1, I won't lie and say I think with 2 and 3, I either used save states or I used patches to give me like unlimited force power or what have you. 1, there's a spot where you could farm and get like 99 lives, but you'll go through that like quick. It is ridiculous. The difficulty didn't need to be what it was, I think. But it's exactly what you said. It's really cool.
It had Western developer game difficulty. Like I think it was either a British or American developer. it seems like the people that are developing games in the West didn't understand the concept of invincibility frames. And so that was one of those games where one enemy, if it was overlapping your sprite, it would drain your entire life bar down, and then that was your life.
Yep.
So it just swarming enemies that are just infinite, so that you can't exhaust all the enemies on the screen. They'll just literally keep on coming. So just that kind of stuff that I think Japanese developers, not to tooth them up too much, but at that time, it seems like they had a better handle on that kind of stuff. Not that their games weren't hard, but it seems like they had already kind of worked through some of the unfair stuff, so that you didn't typically see a whole lot of swarming enemies in a Konami game or a Capcom game. And iframes were more forgiving in games from Japanese developers, it seems like. So
yeah, they were definitely more aware of it too. And that just goes, because you bring up an interesting point, because that makes me think of the whole Mario, what we would call Super Mario Brothers, the lost levels, really being Super Mario Brothers 2.
Right.
And then we got Mario Madness, which both games are great, but like it was that, and even in like Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, where it's like, oh, this is going to be too hard for the dumb Americans, so we got to dumb it down a little bit and stuff. And it's like, no, like what you pointed out, it's like, some like Western developed games are ridiculously hard, and we would have gladly have taken the Japanese version just because we would understand it. Because I think, what is it with Battletoads? The Japanese version's a little bit easier, I think.
That's what I've heard, and I've been curious to buy. I like to just buy the stuff and have like the physical the copies.
Oh
yeah,
and
I like Battletoads enough that I'm willing to actually buy a second copy of it. I don't want to pay $100 for it, which is what it goes for.
Really? Oh gosh.
Yeah, it's more expensive than you'd expect it to be.
The Japanese version.
Yes, because I think
wow.
I think word got out that it's the more accessible version of the game, so the demand kind of went up a little bit, or maybe because it was rare, so they're a British developer, maybe just wasn't released in big enough quantities in Japan. I don't know how that works.
Because normally the Japanese versions are a tad bit cheaper.
Usually
usually
a lot of times more than a tad. They're like a quarter of the price.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I forgot where I was going with that, but
well, I trying to think of something that could help you remember.
About Battletoads, but
Battletoads Japanese versus American version, buying it.
The Japanese version of Battletoads is the easier one. So I've heard that too. And I think I've heard that the Genesis version of Battletoads is designed around the Famicom version of Battletoads.
That one, that I do not know.
Which
is that the Double Dragons ones? Because I know there's a Battletoads and Double Dragons.
More or less a straight port of NES Battletoads on the Genesis.
Okay, I remember now.
And when I was playing those games years ago, I was able to get a whole lot farther in the Genesis version. I didn't really understand why, because I was like, well, it seems like it's the same game. Why am I? Why did I make it to level 5?
Why am I doing the Lord's work and getting through this quick? Yeah, I've beaten. Yeah, let's see. I feel like with the NES version, I can get up to the worm level with the worms.
Yeah, the snakes.
The snakes that you have to run across. But then after that, I pretty much die. That one's that's another game too where you just got to know the patterns and what you need to do.
It is, and it's and people say it's all about memorization. I actually have somewhere on my computer I actually have the furthest I've ever made it in Battletoads, because I have beaten the game, but nice. I took the easy way out, and
warp.
There's I just used like Game Genie codes. I didn't use like save states or anything, but Game Genie codes to basically give myself infinite continues.
Oh, you're fine.
So I basically got a password so I don't want to play through the entire game. I just want to get to the parts where I start to struggle, and then I'll just practice the game from there. So I kind of leapfrog through the game in that way until I beat the game. So I'm not going to consider it beaten until I actually, put the NES cartridge in and play it the way Rare intended, using 2 or 3 continues, however few continues you have in that game.
You can acquire more, because I think X amount of points you can.
I know you can get extra lives. So
yeah, extra lives. If you watch Bootsy Beats, he beats Battletoads.
And that was a great.
That.
Yes, I do.
I
miss Bootsy.
I do too. I tried reaching out to him for an interview, but I got a hold of him, but he said he doesn't really do interviews anymore. That's what I've heard. I can understand. Yeah, I understand.
I imagine he just wants to completely wipe it. Sounds like he just wants to.
That's the sad.
Leave that in the past.
That's the unfortunate thing that I was really sad to see, was that breakup of James, Mike, Bootsy, Kyle, and it's unfortunate. And I mean, I guess that is one of the things you have to be aware of, is how is your friendship strong enough that if you start doing business things with it, that it won't interfere with that friendship. So,
and I kind of blamed Mike for a lot of that stuff. I don't know if that's the right thing to do.
I blame
part of it.
Yeah, I like watching Mike, but I do think he was indeed a lot of part of it too. Because I think he's talked on stream that I think he's bipolar. I know he takes medication.
I want to say that he and James are both very, and I'm not trying to shame anyone. They both strike me as extremely spectrumy, both those guys.
Well, I know James.
I think
I know James he's mentioned that he had to go to a special school and stuff too. I mean, it doesn't bother me. I'm ADHD, but
honestly, I totally would have been, if I'd been born just a few years later, I would have been absolutely classified as like ADHD. I would have gotten diagnosed with that somehow. So
I remember, I know we went through that when I was in first grade, because nowadays the way they categorize you is you just answer a few questions, and if you're, this amount of numbers added up, you're whatever. I remember actually going to the hospital, getting my brain scanned, and they compared it to. Yeah, I remember that. And because they were having a hard time kind of diagnosing, because I actually I still joke with my parents about it a little bit. It's like, so what did it like? Because I remember going to a bunch of different therapists and stuff like that, and I was like, so what did the therapist always categorize me? And she'd be like, oh my gosh, they say you were this, you were bipolar, you were like antisocial and stuff like that. But I think what they kind of determined was indeed that ADHD with a very, level 1 autism or Asperger's, which pretty much functioning to where you don't even know it if you really look at it, sort of thing. And I mean, so I picked that up right away with James and Mike, and noticed
that's what I kind of got off Mike also, because I don't know if he actually I don't know if I've ever actually heard him or anyone come out and say that yes, he is bipolar, yes, he has some kind of, but I mean, you hear a story of
I think he mentioned it on the stream, or he mentioned he was taking medications and stuff like that. So
on one of the James and Mike's plays, I forgot what movie they were talking about, but they both thought it was hilarious that when Mike was a kid, he went to go see this movie. I think it was Ninja Turtles 3. That's what it was.
Yeah, and he peed on
the theater, and they both thought that was hilarious. I was like, "Are you were fucked up as a kid if you did that?"
Yeah,
so you were definitely something. So
yeah, you were bouncing off the walls, yeah, sort of thing. Yeah, and that again, that just makes me. And that's kind of where, I think I do feel I still support Cinemaskers. I'd love to actually interview James.
I'm still subscribed, so yeah.
Yeah, I would do that too, but I'm also one to where I would totally support James if he just stopped AVGN, because if he's burnt out from doing that, because that's kind of where there is a Reddit forum. I don't know if you heard of it, called the Cinemassacre.
The Cinemassacre Truth. Yeah.
Yep. I will not lie and say I have been lurking over, or not constantly, but I checked out some stuff. I think a lot of stuff people gripe on over there is kind of retarded. It's like you're obsessing way too much on it, sort of thing. But
yeah, I don't know what all the jokes are, but I know that the not having enough time is like
oh gosh,
like,
yeah.
Well, dude, I'm also
Bimmy.
I get it. I know you want, Bimmy. I know that they want James to be making angry video game videos for them, just like he used to. I think they need to be more realistic. That as a I don't know how old he is, maybe 42, 43. He's got kids. He's got a wife. It's unfair to expect him to put the amount of time into
I agree with you, and you probably you have better experience than me because you're married and have kids and stuff. And yeah, I mean, yeah, it does get tiring if that's the same excuse over and over. But if it's true, it's true, And I think that's kind of where a lot of people, honestly, over there would be totally fine if he just retired AVGN and actually do stuff that he actually enjoys doing. Because I'll go back and watch his Dracula comparison of how close it is to the book. If you ever watched, have you ever watched?
I never watched that.
That's really good. Like he was passionate about that, and that's personally that's what I would want with anybody is like, hey, I've been in burnout mode too, and it's like, if you need to do something to where you're not feeling burnout and you still have that passion, or at least it's something you care about in the terms of like it's still authentic to you, and you understand what I'm trying to communicate. Like I'd rather see that than just like, well, I got to do this because.
Well, I guess we haven't done this game yet, so I guess we'll talk about Pepsi Man, and I'll have my mods write the script for me, and then because I don't want to appear on camera, I guess I'll just let them be.
Oh gosh, the slobs.
The slobs. What cracks me up is that Justin, is that his name?
Yeah, Justin.
He's the head guy. It kind of cracks me up that you could tell he kind of goes around Cinemassacre Truth also because he kind of reacts to it. Honestly, I don't know if he's really a bad guy. I think he just I don't know if I really have a problem with Justin. I don't like Ryan because when he started kind of showing up, I was like, who's this weird creep that showed up with Mike all the time? There was no explanation for it.
Yeah, Ryan.
They just kind of
I think that's kind of where a lot of other like people like kind of became upset as well, because it was just out of nowhere. If there was legitimately like, and it could literally just be one time and you just point to that movie every time, it's like, hey, this is the direction we're going with now. Like I think honestly a lot of people probably it wouldn't be as a big deal if they would have done that. But
yeah, it's because there was no explanation, because I always remember wondering, well, who is Ryan? I guess he's Mike's friend because he's showing up with, and then when these other guys started up, I guess these are just friends that we've never heard about before.
Yeah, and then it's
James,
like
big circle of friends because we don't really see Kyle anymore, and then I guess I don't like them as much, but okay. And then I guess what was it the Monster Madness scandal? Is that when everyone it all kind of blew up?
Yeah,
I think that's when it kind of came out that hey, these aren't just James's friends; they're running his show.
They're running his show.
They're fucking it up.
Yeah, there's that, and people knew right away. It's like the writing style is different. Yeah, Monster Madness. Yeah, Ryan showing up, which is that the company that like he would run the website.
I think he runs Screenwave. I think that's his company.
Screenwave. Yeah. Runs Screenwave, all that stuff. And then there was that big plagiarism.
Yeah, in the Monster Madness thing.
Oh, so that's what it okay.
That's when it kind of came out that I think that's when I think most people realized that because he had to blame someone. So it's like, oh, I mean, there's someone else writing.
There was
his
this
episode.
one editor, yeah, and it's like he didn't bother looking over. Yeah. Oh,
yeah. Well, I spent way too much time, not necessarily on the. I get the crib notes a lot, so I'm more well versed than I should be on the Cinemassacre drama.
I would probably say I am as well. Like, and it's
It's
weird
because it's a fascinating thing to watch.
It's exactly. It's like it's just like you just can't. It's like a train wreck. It's like you can't look away, even it's bad, but it's like cannot look away. But then of course, then it becomes a matter of time of like people just obsessing, like reaching for stuff that isn't even there, and it's like, oh my gosh, like just be smart.
That's what I mean, because like everyone started vilifying Justin, and it's like he actually from what I've seen, he actually seems like kind of a cool guy. So I don't think it's worth calling him or blaming him for the downfall of Cinemassacre. It's kind of weird that he was.
I didn't really see that. I thought Kieran was a lot of the.
And I don't think it's fair for him either, because I mean, Kieran was he's the biker looking guy, right? That edited the video. So I think he was literally I kind of got the impression from him because he gossiped a lot when he left.
Yeah.
I kind of got the impression from him that he and James were on the same page as far as what kind of videos to make and that kind of stuff. And Justin and Ryan and the Screenwave guys were driving Kieran and James into this weird direction that they didn't want to go in. Like, I think because James, man, we're really getting the weeds here. This is good stuff, though.
All good.
I think when James, I think, probably got broken by his movie, so he was like, "Well,
that's the sad. That's the other sad thing too. Is I think that movie did really."
So I think at that point he realized that he'd rather be spending a lot more time with he has two daughters, I think, with his wife and kids. So I think that's maybe when he kind of, I don't want to say sign the deal with the devil, because that makes it sound worse than it really was. But I think that's when he partnered up with Screenwave, and behind the scenes they started kind of restructuring the whole channel.
Mm-hmm.
I think I want to say the idea was for him to take a step back, and so when he was appearing in less videos, I think they're just wanting to make money, so they was like, well, we got to have more videos, we got to put more faces in front of the camera. And I think Kieran, the editor, was kind of forced into that. I don't think he ever wanted to be on the other side of the camera. I think all he wanted to do was just edit videos and probably maybe do some writing also.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to fault him either.
Yeah, I never really, I don't know, like I didn't look at their own personal stuff, because I think Justin has his own channel, right? Doesn't he do his something entertainment or something?
Because
I thought he was doing something.
There was another guy that was on there, because I never watched this show. I thought it was a rip-off of Red Letter Media. Are you familiar with Red Letter Media?
Is that the people who cover like some of the do they cover like some of the drama that happened?
Okay, so you're thinking of Red Collar Entertainment. So
I think I'm thinking of that, but I have heard the name sounds
Red Letter Media are the guys that do like the hour-long Star Wars reviews, so half in the bag and all that stuff. Okay, so I think you and I consume a lot of the same drama content then. So
apparently we had nothing better to do.
I drive around a lot for work, and I just have this stuff kind of going in the background.
I get you.
So where were
Red Letter Media?
Matter, but
that's what you're referring to.
So yes, when they were doing the movie stuff, when they were like sitting around like the little fake rental store, and I think they had Justin, James was on there. He didn't say anything. I think they forced Kieran to be on there, and then they had the other guy that I think was the really passionate movie guy. I think he left and has his own channel.
Okay,
where he does, I'm assuming, more of the same stuff.
But
I think he might be the guy that you're thinking of. Kind of the bigger guy that has maybe, I think he might have beard also. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. I think
I didn't follow them to their other channel, so I could care less.
I didn't know. I got Cinemassacre Rentals. I tried my best getting into that, because some of the stuff, like, you would think that James would shine a little bit more, just because he says he's always enjoyed films more than video games. But I mean, there was still, again, sadly, the joke of, yep, Yeah.
Well, he's just not the kind of guy that you could just sit in front of a camera and he can just talk. So I mean, don't make him do that.
I agree. Yeah, because
I would much rather watch him, and I think you're on the same page. Don't do angry video game nerd anymore if you're not into it. Do movies now. You have a big enough audience that I think they probably wouldn't be as popular, but then you could be doing something you actually want to do.
I mean, it's going to get to that point where, like The Simpsons, they've been going on for so long. It's going to get like that. As much as, and I enjoy South Park too, but South Park is probably gonna, South Park will get at that. Any long running show is going to get there at some point.
Yeah.
And no matter how much you try to keep up with how everything's going, that's kind of where I want to see I would just love to see a major rewind, like going back to the early days of YouTube and stuff, because again, and that's how I feel with like 80s, 90s, early 2000s, is like you could do something completely insane and it didn't matter if you succeeded or failed. The point is that you did it. That's why, you got your a lot of people give Adam Sandler shit, but you got your dumb shows like movies like Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, and they're amazing. Happy Gilmore probably is a lot more solid grounded, I would say, than Billy Madison, but I remember a lot more stuff from Billy Madison that was just insane. And it's like, what does this have to? That's what I want to see nowadays, because I feel, because of, sadly, a lot of ideology and stuff like that, is this fear of a backlash and stuff. And really that backlash stuff is becoming non-existent anymore, because people are like, nah, whatever. You've run it dry. It means nothing anymore.
I think people have, maybe a way to say it is, it feels like their sense of whimsy has atrophied. So there isn't a whole lot of silliness anymore. And I don't know if it's because we all got woke in a way. We're not woke like in that way, but we all.
I get what you mean. Yeah.
Like, the world is definitely. One of the games I played last year was Splatterhouse on the PS3, which I think was also on the 360. So I don't know if you ever played that game.
I actually played the arcade, and I think I played Splatterhouse 2 this past Halloween, and I was going to plan on doing 3 and do the 360 PS3 one that you were mentioning.
Okay, so in particular, the just called Splatterhouse, but the one that the modern one.
Yeah, I know.
I played through that one, and I was struck the entire time of how dated it was. How it definitely feels like a game that was specifically on the PlayStation 3 and 360, and it was wonderful. I love that there was like the over the top, the completely unnecessary swearing and boobs, and there was like an innocence to how over the toply, how gratuitously adult it was trying to be, but it really comes across as like a 14-year-old pretending to be an adult, or trying to a 14-year-old makes an R-rated movie. That's how it comes across. And that was how I would define that entire console generation.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's great. But yeah, we just somehow evolved. For better or worse, it seems like we evolved past that. We can't go back anymore. I don't know.
Yeah,
I wish we couldn't, but
I definitely see that. I think we can. I personally think we can, but you're going to get pushback to it. But again, I feel like that pushback, number one, is just not genuine, because it's done by a lot of tourists or people who didn't care about it to begin with. There's definitely that. And I think number two, we're kind of seeing that already happening with Hollywood, like Happy Gilmore 2's happening. And that's not to say that certain movies are like going back to older franchises because they care about it. We've seen a lot of it, like with Star Wars and whatnot. They are completely bastardizing the franchise because they want their version to be seen as the superior one by the future generations. They don't want you to know where the origin came from. Like, I definitely see that. But I do think we are seeing to where people are trying to recapture that a little bit, but I don't think we're there yet.
Now it's in I'm also a little bit encouraged by the Happy Gilmore 2, but I mean, how much is that do you think is us trying to go back to that time to someone just like
Mhm.
trying to capitalize on anything that anyone has anything nostalgic for or nostalgia for?
Well, that's I guess that's kind of where I was trying to explain myself, and probably failed at doing it because I know
Oh,
what you're
sorry.
talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about. Was Yeah, we've seen it to where it's like, what is it, Stranger Things? Like that time set that they're trying to you can you can tell when someone's trying to capitalize on someone's nostalgia, but it's clearly written by someone who knows nothing about it. I feel
Right.
like you can easily see that discernment. But I think we are indeed at that point where our fists are up whenever we see something like that because it's like we've been tricked so many times. Like we're on the offense and stuff. I don't know. It's kind of for me. It's kind of hard to explain. It's
I just feel, and I don't know if I would necessarily ascribe any kind of ideology to it, but it's, and I know that every 5 years, everyone says the exact same thing that Hollywood has no ideas. But I think there's such a lack of ideas that more so now than ever
mhm,
before, they're just digging past the bottom of the barrel to see what, like, Matrix 4 was a pretty good example of this. This was a series where the actual creators, the Wachowski sisters, they were done. They didn't want, to my
mhm.
understanding, they did not want to make another movie. They were satisfied with when they made, but for whatever reason, Warner Brothers kind of forced their hand to make a fourth movie that I don't think anyone really wanted. I think
I
everyone was
wouldn't
kind
say.
of satisfied with how it turned out,
Yeah, 1 through 3 in the Animatrix.
and all the extra stuff that went along with those movies, like the game and all that kind of crap.
Oh, yeah, the
Um,
game, yeah.
like it was like a whole, like there was a comic, all that stuff to kind
I
of
don't
give this
remember the
backstory.
comic. Path of Neo and then,
Remember that?
Matrix Online, if I'm not mistaken.
I remember seeing some kind of supplemental material where some guy was excitedly telling us to get that in order to get to this the whole story of Matrix Revelations and whatever the other one was called, we need to play the game, we need to watch the anime, we need to read the book, we need to buy the
Oh,
comic. It's like, well, that doesn't sound fun at all. You just gave me a bunch of homework. Just let me watch the movie.
yeah.
Uh,
Good point.
well, I got off track again, but that was one where they did not want to make another
The
movie.
hand was forced. Mhm.
And I haven't seen it, but I've heard that they basically, I think Warner Brothers is an entity in the movie, and that is a plot point where um, Keanu Reeves's character Neo essentially made this thing like a comic book series or something, and he's done. And then his boss literally tells him, Warner Brothers wants you to make another one, and if you don't do it, they're gonna find someone who will. So, do you want in or not? And so, I think
Mhm.
that is the plot. They literally put their own behind the scenes drama into the
Jeez.
movie, and that
I didn't know
the
that.
balls of that I thought was a very impressive,
I didn't
so to speak.
bother seeing. I mean, I
I'm
liked The
not interested at
Matrix.
all.
Yeah, I didn't I'm not the Matrix. I'm not a huge Matrix person, but I will tip my hat because it did define something really special, for
It was
sure.
fine as one movie. I thought. I didn't. I
Yeah,
thought
I would
that
agree.
one movie was genre defining, generation defining also. Like
Yeah,
that was a
I agree.
wow. That was a moment. And it literally didn't need any sequels at all.
And getting back to what you were saying too, because I think even if the creator, like the people who created whatever series you want to, comes back to do something else, there's to me there's this lie of, well, back in the day we made this. But really, this version that we're giving you now, this is what we really meant. And it's like, no, it wasn't. Like, you're
Right.
doing it because you're afraid of whatever backlash you're about to see. I think that's kind of where it's to where we're slowly starting to see it go back to where if it is the original person, they're doubling down on like, no, this is how I wanted to do it. Like, I guess like the example I'm thinking of something like that I call complete bullshit on is the X-Men 92 or 97 thing that came
Mm-hmm.
out, that recent series where it's like, we're continuing the X-Men animated series. And it's like, hey, I remember growing up on that. And then they're doing stuff that's clearly wasn't the series. And then you get the whole in argument of like, you never understood X-Men because it was always about this. It's like,
Or you never
no,
understood Star Trek. Star Trek was always about this, which
exactly. And it's like,
might have a
no,
point, but not
yeah,
really.
yeah,
Not the way you're
yeah,
using it.
exactly. And not that. And then you had people who worked on the show originally. They're like, oh no, it was like this. It's like, no, it's like, dude, I know you're lying, because if this was like this, if this is what you meant this entire time, then why did you do it the other way? Like, it's that sort of thing to where it's like, that's where a lot of the distrust that people started developing, because it's like you're lying because you're afraid you're going to get pushback, or you're just a scummy person that hid it really well until all this insanity came out.
I guess maybe I can't relate because I'm not a
Hmm.
multi-million-dollar company. I'm not
Yeah.
uh, a huge actor that my livelihood depends on public opinion of me.
Yeah.
S- but from my perspective, it all kind of comes from people who are too afraid to tell people who are too young to know that this is the way things were back then. We talked a certain way in 1993. We made certain jokes. Um, my wife and I watched Idiocracy. Have
Oh,
you seen this? Okay.
yeah.
This movie's
I've
kind of gotten a big
yeah.
bump lately, I think, because
Is
of
that where the
how,
guy goes back in time and everyone's
yeah,
retarded?
he
Well, not like
you can't say
stupid.
retarded. Um,
I mean,
uh,
like everyone's.
no,
Lo-
he gets frozen at Luke Wilson gets frozen in time
Mhm.
in like a stasis booth for 500 years. And when he wakes up,
Everyone's low.
humanity has devolved
Yeah,
into,
and he's just normal, right? But
and
everyone thinks he's like,
he's not even smart. He's just like a normal average guy. But in this entire society of absolute numbskulls, he's literally the
and
smartest guy
that's
alive,
and
and
that's
that's
with
the
Terry
joke.
Crews, right? Isn't Terry
Terry
Crews
Crews is
like
the president,
the
yeah,
president? Okay, yeah, I
and
know what
he's
you're
like a
talking.
former wrestler and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I know what
stupid
you're
movie.
talking about.
It
Yeah,
is such a stupid movie, but they say they use all the slurs that are extremely, extremely controversial today. That like the number of R drops and F drops all the way through the movie. That's like half the script, and no one at that time would have blinked an eye on it. And now I think that's why it's gotten. It feels like going into your parents' liquor cabinet as a kid, and you're sneaking something, getting something you're not supposed to have. I think that's the appeal of the movie now, because it's not smart, it's not funny, it's dumb. It is, but it is entertaining, and um, I did get a kick out of watching the kind of stuff that we could say in movies back then that we apparently can't say now.
bring it back, I say, because these kids need to get. They need
They
to
need,
learn. They need to
yes.
learn quick. Get that thick skin back. These people would not survive the Call of Duty lobs back in the day. They would
when
not. And it's like, dude,
the
like,
worst people talking that 13-year-olds insulting your mom in
yeah, number
yeah.
one, there was young people talking about this. So like this delusion of like, well, young kids don't talk like that. That's the whole point. That's
Yeah.
the whole point of what made South Park South Park. It's
Mhm.
Matt and Trey telling you guys, you honestly think people like these kids don't talk like this? They do. Like, you're a fool for not realizing it. You got that. And then number two, it's amazing that when you shoot the shit back, how at the end of the day, you're still here. And
Mhm.
100% of the time, you don't care what you just said because it's done and it's over with. Uh, Call of
We
Duty Labs, bring them back.
yeah.
None of this safety chat bullshit anymore. So dumb.
Yeah, we just need to. I
start them when they're young. Learn about life.
So, because I also don't think that people should be bullied, but I also don't think that bullying should be like a hate crime. Like I got picked on when I was in school.
Same
I
here.
I honestly think it's part of who I am. I think that being bullied.
It's amazing that when you stand up to the bully, that a lot of times they stop because they're like, oh, this guy like responds back, you know? Yeah, that may not be the case for everything, but this is kind of something I was thinking about too, because it sounds like I'm oh geez. I should know my age, but I don't really care about it anymore. I'm 30. I just turned 37. And back in the day,
after 30, it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't matter anymore. But the point is that back in the day, when there's a problem like between, you and someone else, as men, we duked it, you duked it out, and then that was it. And then the deed's done, sort of thing, And it's like we just need to bring that back. It's like solve our differences. Bring back dueling. There you go. Bring back dueling.
Yep. But also, this is gonna sound terrible me saying this. And there's no way that I could put this in any kind of context where it's gonna sound okay. But I do think that there is a benefit to maybe a small one, but there is a benefit of bullying in the sense that it does kind of, when you're in
I know what you're saying.
It does kind of weed out some of the really stupid behavior that you're like, well, I don't want to get hit again. I guess I'll stop. Maybe I will try to do a little bit what the cool kids are doing. And that kind of helps. I think it does kind of help shape a more well-rounded person where a lot of the kind of person that all of us are is a series of mistakes that we've learned from or things that we've decided not to do or,
I know what you're talking about. It's developing that thick skin. It seems the best way to develop that thick skin is exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. You learn.
It's called fat shaming, and we need to bring it back more than ever. That's what it is.
Exactly. You're not defined where you are. You'll be fine if you look better like this.
Exactly. Like all those fat people that are trying to show the amusement parks how you need to make our seats bigger,
right,
or your seats bigger and stuff. It's like, no, you need to put down the fork and maybe run around the block a few times.
There's nothing wrong with not wanting to be fat and not want like
yeah, that's
remember when who's the Adele she was like the poster child for like, yes, we have a celebrity who's fat. Yes, I feel seen. And then she got a bunch of shit when she lost weight. And now I guess Lizzo's losing weight. It's like
I was going to bring up Lizzo, dude, and props to Lizzo too. Like,
good for her. Good for her.
Anybody
you should not be proud of being morbidly obese. That's not good for you.
Yeah,
it's not, and it's extreme. I've tried to actually look at more like a humanitarian perspective. But yes, you're right. But yeah, it's also an extremely unhealthy.
Well, I have a fat pass because I used to be fat, and now I'm chunky. I still need to work on it, but we're a lot better where we was. Just go watch my Powder Keg Greg series, then you'll see how fucking fat I was. Oh my gosh, it was insane. Well, we are coming up on the 2-hour mark here, and that's kind of usually where I kind of go an hour and a cool. Hour to 2 hours, and we had such a great conversations. Honestly, I also had like questions like in the background, and we didn't even need them because we were good. And I
was like, oh, we've never talked, so I don't know how well this is gonna go, but I guess we did all right. So
I think we did it amazing.
I would definitely have another conversation. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I wanted to bring up back just thinking because you mentioned and how you traded in your 360 for like a PS3 and stuff. I actually really wanted, I remember I was in college when the PS3 and the 360 came out, and some people had the PS3, some people had the 360, and I really wanted a PS3, but I just could not afford it. The OG one too, with that emotion chip.
I had no affection for the Xbox brand at all, whereas I did have a PlayStation 1 and I did have a PlayStation 2, so I'm not sure exactly why I ended up choosing the 360 over the PS3 originally. So that was a choice I made. I'm going to buy a new console. It's either going to be this one or this one. I chose this one, and I don't remember. There was a game that I was interested in that I think was going to be coming out on the 360 either exclusively or before the PS3. Also, the PS3 is very expensive. I think that's why the 360 did so well that generation. I think it was a lot cheaper.
Yeah. It was cheaper, and really the PS3 could have been made a little bit better, but of course they had because of the thermal, the heat. But each console had that. 360, you had your
things,
you had your red ring of death, the yellow ring of death. That is something that I'm sure we can talk about at some other time too, that I think if Sony would have stuck with it, then they might have more of an edge, and that would be the backwards compatibility. Because they stopped doing that after PS3, and they should have kept with it because Xbox is now doing their thing. But that is another discussion to have. Rob, why don't you go ahead and go and plug yourself, where people can find you, what you're working on or whatever. Feel free to share with the folks.
Well,
explain to the folks.
On YouTube, I'm Mr. Matthews, and on Rumble, I'm either Mr. Matthews or I'm Pedantic Mr. M, I think is what my name is. I do retro video game content. I'm mainly focusing on the Nintendo Game Boy at this time. I usually try to work in some kind of how it's related to NES games or some Super Nintendo game or something. But I mainly like to just talk about retro games, kind of in a scripted format. YouTube compared me to Sega Lord X. I haven't watched the channel, so I don't really know if that's true, but they said that the people who watch my channel, YouTube says they're also coming from his channel. So I guess maybe I'm the Game Boy version of him. I don't know. But if I had his subscriber base, then who knows? So.
Well, there you guys go. And all of that is in the description as well. And I don't know if you mentioned it, but you are also on Instagram. So check him out over there. You can see.
I mainly just show like collection video or pictures over on that one. So
looking slick. I've seen your display, and I was
and that's all those games right there. I don't know. It's like these games are just sitting on a shelf. I might as well take some pictures of them. So
there you go. But yeah, amazing guy. Get a subscriber number up. Amazing editing. Definitely, Rob. Definitely, we need to talk again too.
Well, thanks a lot for having me on. I appreciate this.
I appreciate
come on again.
Well, I am humbled and blessed that you found me interesting enough to say yes. I will come on your show. So, alrighty, folks, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button and turn on notifications to get notified when I go live, whether that is this show, the Power Up Podcast, either with a guest or solo, where we keep our minds up to date and sharp on pop culture news, or if that's a game streaming thing that I do. We are currently on Dead Space 2, probably wrapping that up. What did I recently? I beat a game currently, so we're going to be starting up more stuff. So don't miss that, 8 p.m. Central Time. And with that, I will catch you guys later. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Check out Rob. And yeah, you guys have a good rest of your night. So take care. God bless. And I will catch you guys on the flip side.